Okay, here we go. I believe this is session 9, and we are beginning chapter 2, all right, which is on page 17 of my text. All right. And chapter 2 is entitled The Separation and the Atonement. All right. So it's the thought that I could be separated from God and the correction for that thought. Okay. The atonement is the correction. So this first section is called The Origins of Separation. We begin. To extend is a fundamental aspect of God, which he gave to his Son. In the creation, God extended himself to his creations and imbued them with the same loving will to create. You have not only been fully created, but you have also been created perfect. There is no emptiness in you. Because of your likeness to your Creator, you are creative. No child of God can lose this ability because it is inherent in what he is, but he can use it inappropriately by projecting. The inappropriate use of extension or projection occurs when you believe that some emptiness or lack exists in you, and that you can fill it with your own ideas instead of truth. Right? And this process involves the following steps, and he'll go into these steps. But let's just go into the first part of the paragraph here. He's just telling us that God created you as he was or is. He is a creator. He extended himself. All right? To extend is a fundamental aspect of God, which he gave to his Son. So that is a fundamental aspect of our spirit, is to extend. All right? And we extend the love, the words. Now we have to use words, all right, which try to describe an indescribable situation. We are, in the mind of God, extending all the thoughts of love, bliss, that happiness, the invulnerability, the abundance, all of those things that just make us full, so to speak, make us whole. All right? So in the creation, God extended himself to his creations and imbued them with the same loving will to create. All right, just that will to extend, all right, to extend outwardly, infinitely. All right, you have not only been fully created, but have also been created perfect. All right, so you are fully created and created perfect. All right, you are perfect. Your spirit is perfect. There is no emptiness in you. Because of your likeness to your Creator, you are creative. Right? And what the Course always means by creator and creations and creative is that extension of love. Those are your creations. All right? And when we believe we separated and we projected out of the one mind and took on this ego thought system and represented by this body, all right, even though we're in bodies, there are creative urges in us, all right? And when you come in contact with great works of art, you stand in that place, all right, where the artist was inspired. The artist was in that place where he got in touch, or she got in touch with the perfection. And it comes out as words, it comes out as figures that are painted, it comes out as things that are chiseled out of marble or made out of clay or made out of wood, whatever the medium that the artist uses, music, all right? It's a reflection. All those things are reflections of our true state. Okay? So, and there's my little kitty calling for room service again. All right? So you have been not only fully created, but have also been created perfect. There is no emptiness in you. Because of your likeness to your Creator, you are creative. No child of God can lose this ability because it is inherent in what he is. Right? You can't lose this ability because it's who you are. It's your spirit. Your spirit was created in the image of the Creator. All right? It is creative. Its happy will is to extend the happiness. All right? No child of God can lose this ability. All right? But he can use it. He can use it inappropriately by projecting. The inappropriate use of extension or projection occurs when you believe that some emptiness or lack exists in you, and that you can fill it with your own ideas instead of truth. This process involves the following steps. First, you believe that what God created can be changed by your own mind. Second, you believe that what is perfect can be rendered imperfect or lacking. Third, you believe that you can distort the creations of God, including yourself. Fourth, you believe that you can create yourself and that the direction of your own creation is up to you. All right, I'm an individual here. You know, I can do what I want, and this is the direction, this is what I'm going to achieve, this is what I can do. Excuse me. But first, you believe that what God created can be changed by your own mind. All right? That's what you believe. And that's what we all believe because we're here. All right? And he says you believe that what is perfect can be rendered imperfect or lacking. All right? So once we believe that we're separated from the mind of God, we're separated from everything, there has to be a feeling of lack. Oh, now I have nothing. I turned my back on everything. Now I'm lacking something. All right. And third, you believe that you can distort the creations of God, including yourself. All right. And we believe we can distort the creations of God. It's like this is a parody. This body, this entire universe really, is a parody on the creations of God. All right? And Jesus is telling us this is a distortion. All right? And we believe it. We believe we could do that. We believe it's been done. All right? Including ourselves. We changed ourselves. And then he says you believe you can create yourself and that the direction of your own creation is up to you. All right? So in other words, we have usurped the power and the function of God, the power and the function of our Creator. All right? We believe that we created ourselves and that we're in charge. All right? So these related distortions represent a picture of what actually occurred in the separation, or the detour into fear. It's always one of my favorite he's got it in quotes, what happened when we decided to believe that we could separate. We could separate from the mind of God. We could be individual. Jesus refers to that very kindly as the detour into fear. All right? So none of this existed before the separation. All right? Nor does it actually exist now. Everything God created is like him. Extension, as undertaken by God, is similar to the inner radiance that the children of the Father inherit from him. Its real source is internal. This is as true of the Son as of the Father. In this sense, the creations include both the creation of the Son by God and the Son's creations when his mind is healed. This requires God's endowment of the Son with free will, because all loving creation is freely given in one continuous line, in which all aspects are of the same order. All right. So let's go back up to that beginning of paragraph 2, where he says, he's talking about the related distortions. All right. He says, none of this existed before the separation. Right? None of the fear, the guilt, the distortions of the creations, none of this existed before we believed that we could separate from our source. Right? None of this actually occurred in the separation or the detour into fear. None of this existed before the separation. Nor does it actually exist now. It just throws that in there. Okay, think about that for a second. All the parodies of creations that we have made through the ages, right? Or as the word he's using here is the distortions of creation that we have taken part in, right? He says they didn't exist before the separation, right? And here it is. Nor does it actually exist now. Okay? If you just dwell on that, it's one of those themes that Jesus will repeat over and over again as he's talking to Helen and Bill and the rest of us. All right? Is that this is an illusion. All right? And remember, don't skip steps. Be normal. Start where you are. We believe we're here. I believe I'm in this body, right? I believe I'm sitting in my apartment here, right? And there's people all around, right? Don't deny things like that. But Jesus is telling us, keep it in the back of your mind. This is illusory, all right? Nor do they exist now. Everything God created is like him. You, us, all right? We are the collective. In the collective, we are the Son of God. All right? We were created as that one Son, just as God is. All right? As they always like to say in Christianity, in the image and likeness of God. All right? Except there is no image because there's no form. But that's neither here nor there. But we are like the Creator in that we extend the bliss, the fullness of everything, the fullness of all that is. That is where we get our pleasure, right, from doing that, right? And that's in spirit, right? That's in reality. So, extension as undertaken by God. See, in the first few chapters, Jesus is using extension and projection, alternately, until he'll just get to the part where extension will stand for the idea of extending love, and projection will be the idea of the projected guilt. I see something I don't like in me and I have to get rid of it. Ego tells me you'll feel better if you get rid of it. Find somebody to dump that on, all right? And we do, all right? But that's what this whole book is dedicated to, observing that process, all right? And then saying, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Please help me to see correctly. I want my interpretations corrected, and we begin the journey home. Okay? So extension, as undertaken by God, is similar to the inner radiance that the children of the Father inherit from him. Its real source is internal. This is as true of the Son as of the Father. In this sense, the creation includes both the creation of the Son by God and the Son's creations when his mind is healed. This requires God's endowment of the Son with free will, because all loving creation is freely given in one continuous line in which all aspects are of the same order. It's just a very nice way of saying you are the spitting image, as my grandmother used to say. You are the image of God. You do the exact same things insofar as, what God does is extend love, what the Creator does. Remember, if you're having a problem with the word God, you can talk to your higher self about that, or substitute another word. Substitute all that is, or whatever works for you, whatever works that will give you the idea that you are not the first source. You are not the first cause. All right? Okay. So, and he's saying the real source of your radiance, which is the image of God, extended, becomes you. You are the radiance. And he says the real source of that is internal. It's in the mind, right? I have a tendency to point up here when I say mind, but the mind is all around. All right? The mind, it's all around. Okay? It's not the brain. All right? So, extension as undertaken by God is similar to the inner radiance of the children of the Father. All right? What they inherit from him. Okay. So, let's look at paragraph 3. This is the Garden of Eden, or the pre-separation condition, was a state of mind in which nothing was needed. That's pretty clear. If you think back to the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, they lacked nothing. They wanted nothing, right? Where nothing was needed. And when Adam listened to the lies of the serpent, in quotes, all he heard was untruth. Right? You do not have to continue to believe what is not true unless you choose to do so. Right? All that can literally disappear in a twinkling of an eye because it is merely a misperception. What is seen in dreams seems to be very real. Yet the Bible says that a deep sleep fell upon Adam, and nowhere is there reference to his waking up. The world has not yet experienced any comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. Such a rebirth is impossible as long as you continue to project or miscreate. It still remains within you, however, to extend as God extended his Spirit to you. In reality, this is your only choice, because your free will was given you for your joy in creating the perfect. Right? So in that paragraph, if you reread it, if you listen to it, he says you don't have to continue to believe what's not true, right? Unless you choose to do so. What were the lies of the serpent? The serpent goes, hey, take a bite of this and, you'll have knowledge. You'll have all the knowledge that you ever wanted, You'll have more knowledge than you ever thought possible. All right? You'll have more than you have now. And, Adam, there had to be that moment of decision when he thought, oh, maybe I could have more. And And so he does it. He falls for it. All right? As soon as, if you know the story, as soon as he does that, all right, and Adam, I mean Eve is along with him as partner. As soon as they've done it, what do? They feel ashamed. They feel guilt. They feel fear. Immediately. They go running. They cover themselves. They realize they're naked. All right? They go running to hide in the trees. All right? Because now in their mind, God is angry. All right? This is part of the original hallucination, the original illusion. All right? We think we separated. First we have the thought, which is what the Course refers to as the tiny mad idea, that we could separate, we could leave the mind of God. Right? As if an idea can leave the mind that thinks it. But we think, oh, maybe I could be on my own. Maybe I could be an individual. And we think we accomplished it. We had that moment of thought, should I do it, should I do it? Boom. I decide, yes, I want to be just like the Creator, but I want to be an individual. And I go with the ego. Automatically, the illusions begin. Right? The illusions begin. I feel, oh, what did I do? I turned my back on everything. Now I have to go run and hide in the trees. Why? Because now I'm imagining, I'm projecting that guilt, all right? I'm projecting everything onto my Creator. He's coming to get me now. Now all of a sudden God's angry. God was never angry. God is never angry. But in the illusion, oh man, now I got to get away. What am I going to do? Right? These trees, I don't know how long I can hide in the trees, but then my ego gives me this bright idea, okay, let's, the mind is very powerful, Kev, come on. The mind is very powerful, let's leave, let's project out of the mind, and we'll create this whole universe where we can hide. All right, boom. That's the Course's idea of the Big Bang. We project, as one sun, we project out of the mind and burst into billions and billions and billions of pieces, as Carl Sagan might say. All right? And then we forget where we came from. Then we forget. We forget that we actually exist in the mind of God. Right? And the ego wants to maintain itself, the ego's thought system wants to maintain itself, doesn't want us to even realize that I have a mind. I have a mind. Maybe I can go back there and see if I can correct my perception. But this world, this universe that we miscreated, right, in order to hide, right, we're so good at hiding that we forgot. Right, we forgot where we came from. And now it just becomes a big distraction. It's such a major distraction. All right? And in the Course, you'll see the word defense. All right? The ego will use this world as a defense. It'll use my body as a defense against the truth. Right? And the truth being that I'm actually at home in God. I'm actually at home in God. But the ego is threatened by that choice. It doesn't want me to make that choice because with that choice, the ego disappears, individuality disappears, autonomy disappears. What I think of as this power that I have disappears. Okay? Hey, and that could be pretty frightening. Because, so that's why, I always say, start where you are, take little steps, right? And you work your way out of the dream. All right? I believe Jesus uses the idea of a dream here. Starts to introduce that theme, right? And Helen Schuckman, who was a wonderful psychologist, she was very astute Freudian. Right? And one of Freud's main things was dreams. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. And what Jesus is saying, let's take that another step further. This whole thing is a dream. So let's use it as Freud would analyze dreams of his patients. Right? Let us look at our dream, our participation in this dream. Right? And just observe it without judgment. Right? And if it's upsetting or frightening or if it enrages you somehow, something in the dream is making you mad, that's when you go back to your mind, right, which the ego doesn't like us to do. Go back to the mind and contact your higher self, all right? And, Jesus is your higher self in the Course, all right? We've been brought up in the Western world, most of us, that are reading this Course. Right? And we were affected by Christianity one way or another. Right? So we use the Christian terms, but only as a stepping stone, right? Only as a familiar stepping stone to many of us, to rise above it all, So you can realize that Jesus is your higher self, or some people would say your future self, right? But he's also going to remind us everything is happening now. So, and things can be changed in the twinkling of an eye, he says, right? All that can literally disappear in the twinkling of an eye because it is merely a misperception. And that's what the miracle is, having our perception changed. And there's where he mentions, I think it's the first time he mentions a dream, in sentence 5, paragraph 3. What is seen in dreams seems to be very real. True, right? Dreams can be very, very real to us, right? And then he goes on to say, the Bible says that a deep sleep fell upon Adam, and nowhere is there a reference to his waking up. All right? I always think that's pretty cool. All right? And then he says, the world has not yet experienced any comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. This book began, I think, in the late 60s, right? And please, if anybody knows better, please message me, correct me. All right? I believe Jesus told Helen that this was a part of a celestial speed up, right? Because, in his words here, the world has not yet experienced any comprehensive reawakening, right? Like there were individuals who experienced the full reawakening, the Buddha, all right? I'm sure Plato was in touch with an awakened mind, right? And many, many others that we never hear of, right? But who have touched the truth, so to speak, and they bring it to their communities, all right, in different ways, all right? Now we have contemporaries here, like Thich Nhat Hanh, many teachers like Gangaji, right, and Muji, quite a few. But I think now, presently, in this year, this is the end of 2018, Eckhart Tolle would say there is a beginning of consciousness rising. And that's basically the idea of reawakening or rebirth. All right? they say the second coming is, it's just remembering. It's a reawakening of the memory of who you are, truly in existence, in the true existence, rather. All right. So, let's see. Let's go to paragraph 4. All right, get my feet back on the ground here. Paragraph 4. All fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that you have the ability to usurp the power of God. Of course, you neither can nor have been able to do this. Here is the real basis for your escape from fear. The escape is brought about by your acceptance of the atonement, which enables you to realize that your errors never really occurred. Only after the deep sleep fell upon Adam could he experience nightmares. If a light is suddenly turned on while someone is dreaming a fearful dream, he may initially interpret the light itself as part of the dream and be afraid of it. However, when he awakens, the light is so correctly perceived as the release from the dream, which is then no longer accorded reality. This release does not depend upon illusions. The knowledge that illuminates not only sets you free, but also shows you clearly that you are free. All right, let's break it down. All right. So all fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that you have the ability to usurp the power of God. That's what we were saying about the Garden of Eden experience. All right, I thought, maybe I can have more than I have now. I can create just like God, and then I believe, oh, I did it. I bit the apple. I took the bait. All right, and that is what Jesus refers to as the ability to usurp the power of God. Now I think I've taken the power away from God because I have it now. Watch what I could do. I have the power, right? And this is the origin of fear, that I have taken the power from God, right? And that now he wants it back. What, are you kidding me? Give me that back. All right, and that's our idea of God. Where do you think you're going with that power? Get back here, all right? So, and then if Jesus says, look, of course you can't do that. Of course, you neither can nor have been able to do this. You just can't do that. All right. Here is the real basis for your escape from fear, is that realization that you can't usurp the power of God. Right? You can believe you did, but you can't. But when you remember that you can't do that, all right, then that thought is corrected. That misperception is corrected, right? And that's what he means. The escape from fear is brought about by your acceptance of the atonement, right? It's a wonderful sentence, and it means by your acceptance of the correction, right? Oh, I thought this, and that's why I was afraid. Oh, my thought is corrected now. Fear is gone, all right? Because I remembered. I asked for help, and I said, help me to see this thought of usurpation, right? That I stole the power of God. Help me to see that thought correctly. And then I accept the correction, and the fear is gone. So the escape is brought about by your acceptance of the atonement, which enables you to realize that your errors never really occurred. Right? There's another thing to just think about for a second. We think we're leading these long lives with, there's a history, there's, the Earth's been around for billions of years, and there's all kinds of planets and all kinds of cells and atoms and so many things, right? And he says, and that's all part of the era. As we project it out of the mind, we made all this stuff. As they say these days, we made stuff up, right? And he says, and then the atonement, the correction of the original error enables you to realize that your errors never really occurred. None of this ever really occurred, all right? But take your time, all right? Take your time. I'm taking my time. I mean, that thought hasn't fully integrated itself in my mind, all right? There's still plenty of times when I'm, firmly planted in the ego thought system, all right? Which is most of the time, all right? But this is helping us to wake up slowly from that dream, all right? And in the idea of the metaphor of the dream, this is only after a deep sleep fell upon Adam could he experience nightmares, right? And a lot of the genuine spiritual paths will talk about this life as being suffering, right? The Buddha acknowledged that, all right? This life is a lot of suffering. So Jesus is using the word nightmare, all right? He'll tell us later on that we walk this earth uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. And that's basically the condition, So, he says, only after Adam fell asleep, right? Only after he decided he could be individual, right? And that veil of forgetfulness fell down. He forgot where he came from, forgot where he exists. It's like asleep. We're walking around in a dream, right? So, if a light is suddenly turned on while someone is dreaming a fearful dream, he may initially interpret the light itself as part of the dream and be afraid of it, right? This was one of Freud's ideas. I forget what he called it. A dream of convenience. So like you're sleeping, the alarm clock goes off, but in your dream you incorporate the noise, right? Could be anything, any kind of a noise, phone ringing, or we just bring it right into the dream. And Jesus is going to be telling Helen that the light that was turned on while we were dreaming this nightmare was the idea of Jesus, right? Jesus being born, all right? The idea of Jesus taking on a body, right? That was the light. But what we did was we incorporated that into the dream. And so, we have stories of, like a magical Jesus, all right? We made it fit into our dream. And we will ask him for favors within the dream. Help me to make this part of the dream better, And I'm sure Dr. Wapnick would tell us that that's okay in the beginning to get you on the right ladder, but you're just on the bottom rung, right? Just get used to talking to Jesus. Get used to talking to your higher self. So if a light is suddenly turned on while someone is dreaming, he may initially interpret the light itself as part of the dream and become afraid of it. All right, so there's that little standoffishness that we give Jesus because he's got all these special abilities, special powers, right? So, but Jesus also corrected that early on and said, I'm just like you, all right? Only I had my misinterpretations corrected at a very early age, no, at a very early stage, let's put it that way. All right? So however, when he awakens, the light is correctly perceived as the release from the dream. So when we eventually awaken, we realize that the light, is the release from the dream. Right? The light is the release from the dream. Right? So this release does not depend on illusions. The knowledge that illuminates not only sets you free, but also shows you clearly that you are free. All right? So we will grow into this knowledge as we have our misinterpretations corrected. Right? And we will realize that we are free. We are at home in heaven, dreaming of exile. And then the dream will be over. Let's look at, one other thing about bringing that dream of convenience. We bring the sound of the alarm clock, we bring the sound of the telephone, and we bring Jesus into our dream in order to stay asleep. Okay? I believe that was what Freud's message was, the dream of convenience. Was that I'll incorporate the sound of the alarm in the dream, so I don't have to wake up. All right? And so I'll make Jesus, part of the dream. Right? And so I can stay asleep. All right? So let's continue. Paragraph 5. Whatever lies you may believe are of no concern to the miracle, which can heal any of them with equal ease. It makes no distinctions among misperceptions. Its sole concern is to distinguish between truth on the one hand and error on the other. Some miracles may seem to be of greater magnitude than others, but remember the first principle in this course. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. In reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. These can be from yourself and others, or from yourself to others, or from others to you. Peace is an attribute in you. You cannot find it outside. Illness is some form of external searching. Health is inner peace. It enables you to remain unshaken by lack of love from without, and capable, through your acceptance of miracles, of correcting the conditions proceeding from the lack of love in others. Right? So once again, he's reiterating that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. Right? They all come from the same original mistake. All right? Not the miracles, but the misperceptions come from the original misperception that I have separated from oneness. Right? That I have taken the power unto myself. Right? So he says the miracle is not concerned with that. It doesn't look at order of difficulties. It makes no distinction among misperceptions, makes no distinction among mistakes. Mistake is a mistake. Its sole concern is to distinguish between truth and error. All right? So we ask, help me to see this correctly. And if I'm thinking incorrectly, it will be corrected. Right? If I ask for help, if I reach out of the dream, so to speak, if I go back to the mind, all right? So he says he says some miracles seem bigger, but he says there's no order of difficulty, all right? And here's a very powerful sentence also. In reality, all right, in reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. Right? They don't affect you because they're nonsensical. They don't exist really. Right? Even we run around in this world and we can observe many, many instances where people think they're lacking love or they're lacking something, they think. Right? So they have to go get it, go steal it, go seduce for it, go whatever. Work real hard for it, suffer for it, whatever. He says, but we, in reality, are unaffected by that nonsense. Right? We're unaffected by the world if we're in our right mind. All right? In reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. And he says these expressions of lack of love, they can be from yourself and others. All right? So we know that we're all capable of expressing, of coming from a place of a lack of love. Right? I'm needing something, I'm lacking something. Right? He says that could be from yourself and others, right? Or from yourself to others. You could project onto other people, or from others to you. People can project onto you. But then he reminds us that he says peace is an attribute in you. All right? It's a part of your makeup. Peace is an attribute in you. He said you can't find it outside. You don't go run around looking for it. Right? And he says illness is some form of external searching. Right? So in another place, Jesus will say, there is no life outside of heaven. Right? And he will use the word of sickness to allude to the idea that I believe I'm outside of heaven. Right? He says, well, then you're sick. Okay. So illness is some form of external searching. I have to go outside. I have to go outside the mind of God. And here in this experience, I have to run around, as the song once said, looking for love in all the wrong places, right? I have to go looking on an external search. He says health is inner peace, all right? Reiterating that idea that the inner peace, the realization that you are at home in God. He says that's health. And that inner peace enables you to remain unshaken by a lack of love from without, and capable, through your acceptance of miracles, of correcting the conditions proceeding from a lack of love in others. So he says that awareness, that state of mind, when you're aware that you are connected to all that is, he says you're not affected by other things. You're not affected by, people running around like a nut, projecting onto you, doing crazy things, even harmful, what others would perceive as harmful things. All right. And this is, what gave Jesus the ability during his time of crucifixion, right, to see things, be unaffected by things that were coming from a lack of love in others. Right? No matter how they're depicted, all right, his mind was at home in God, right, which gave him the ability, as they say, he said, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Right? They're just running around thinking that they lack love. Right? They're just running around unconscious. So health is inner peace. All right. Health is inner peace. And it enables you to remain unshaken by a lack of love. that's all around us. All right? So just remember, we don't correct our own misperceptions. Right? We go to what we'll learn of, we'll call the holy instant, where we go back to the mind, which the ego hates us to do. So it tries to keep us outside in the world, busy in the world. We go back to the mind and ask sincerely, please help me to see this correctly. I want to experience inner peace. And once I have the inner peace, I can deal with the rest of the world. And I can eventually wake up. All right? I can eventually wake up. Thank you. And we'll see you soon for session 10, I believe. All right. Keep smiling.